Well, thank you so much for the introduction, Art, and always a great opportunity to be here. This has absolutely been one of my favorite events to present and to attend for the reason that this really does represent such a broad cross-section of the ecosystem, right? We're talking about some really interesting big picture things. Chris this morning was talking about 5G and the inevitability of fiber-like wireless speeds, and we're talking about the Internet of Things, the Internet of Everything, depending upon who you talk to. We're going to be wrestling with public safety. There are tracks on that, and so really always enjoy, and of course, running into friends and colleagues, very familiar faces, know a lot of the folks here in this room, and of course, a global audience. This event's beginning to and continues to draw a global audience. So really always enjoy coming to this event. My name is Mike Collado. I have the privilege of being the Vice President of Marketing for Solid. We are in the business of keeping people connected and safe through a portfolio of RF amplifiers, RF radios, and optical transport solutions. It's kind of a fancy way of saying we're a DAS manufacturer. We have small cells. We do front haul and back haul. Of distinction. We've got a couple of projects that we're very proud of. We just celebrated, in fact, last week with our friends at Transit Wireless, the completion of the phase 4 of the New York City subway. We're the DAS that's empowering cellular for the 4 major carriers in the New York City subway. We're going to talk today about the Middleprise, and I don't want to oversell this statement of it's a once-in-a-decade opportunity. Art and I were joking a little bit earlier today about those of us who have been in the industry, and maybe just a quick show of hands here among the audience of those who have focused at one point in their life on the in-building space. How long have you been in it? Have you been at it for 5 years? About 10 years. Yeah, so those that have kind of hung with this for 10 years or so would observe that we've all chased after approximately the same market, right? We've chased after big venues like stadia, and subways, and airports, large casinos and convention centers. The Middleprise is a new market opportunity that we define roughly as venues having between 100,000 and 500,000 square feet. If you talk to the guys at ABI Research, they say this space, this market is barely 2% penetrated at this point. This is the first time for those of us who've done this for a while now to go after this brand new market, which I think suggests that there's an opportunity for new market leadership. It's truly a once-in-a-decade opportunity. Just wanted to quickly spend a moment talking about zoom back out for a second and look at all the stuff that's happening in the market right now for network densification. Again, adding coverage and capacity inside and outside of venues. And so, we just talked about the very large venues. We're very familiar with that. There are opportunities within the middle-sized enterprise. The small venues, there are vendors, femto cells. There's solutions vendors that are focused very much on that. There's some other opportunities where essentially is where you are defines the challenges and opportunities within the market. Dense urban, of course, and there are panels and presentations about that. Met during the speed networking event this morning, which just as an aside, why is it that we were the ones that had to shift? Shouldn't the guests have kind of shifted through instead of leaving us breathless after 2 minutes of talking? But anyway, the outdoor world, talked to a lot of operators about that. In our opinion, there are 2 really interesting market opportunities. Again, this is just sort of a macro standpoint, and then we'll drill into the Middleprise opportunity. To us, there are 2 compelling market opportunities. The middle-sized enterprise, which Solid we call the Middleprise. Basically, it's just a contraction of middle market and enterprise. And then the dense urban. And maybe this is a presentation for another day. But dense urban to us is very interesting. It's a segment that if you look at, it's a very niche-y type of market where approximately 80% of DAS is focused indoors. The remaining, the 20%, is focused outdoors. And for the most part, there's one, there used to be 2, CommScope and TE really were the 2 vendors that addressed the outdoor market. Now with CommScope having absorbed TE, I would submit, and again, this is a prediction, we come back and talk about this next year, is that, is there space for another solutions provider, another competitor out there? The market likes choice, right? And I think new problems require new thinking and innovative approaches. But anyway, for our intents and purposes, we're really excited about this middle-priced market opportunity. And just to kind of define what this thing is that it's that 100 to 500,000 square feet space. It consists of retail, hospitals, hotels, commercial office buildings. And this is, we call it the big and complicated opportunity because, again, it's this wide open market, less than 2% penetrated at this point. And it's complicated. And we'll get into why it's complicated, but there's, at this point, the space is, I think, being incubated. It's not a vibrant, happening market right now. I think the stakeholders within the ecosystem are trying to figure out just how do we attack this market. And so it is complicated. And what we'll find is that there's not a repeatable process. The where kind of defines the what. And this will be a recurring theme about, that carries through from what we talk about this afternoon. In other words, what you're doing inside the building, the characteristics of the building are going to really play a strong role in defining how the problems get solved. And so we look at it, there are four core challenges to addressing the Middleprise. One is technology, the technology toolkit. How are we going to tackle that? Business challenges. And in some ways, I might argue that the business challenges probably play a greater role in defining the technology. It's more important that we define the business models in order to address the Middleprise, and then the technology follows. As well, and related, is the design and infrastructure. James Carlini makes a great comment, and I think probably most of us know and are linked with him on LinkedIn and read his stuff, that essentially there are a couple approaches, but the ideal and optimal approach to infrastructure is that the infrastructure should last the lifetime of the building, not the lifetime of the technology that's hanging off of it, AKA rip and replace. And then the last Middleprise challenge is public safety, and I want to touch upon that a little bit. There's going to be some folks on the agenda that are talking about public safety and don't want to steal their thunder too much, but Middleprise plays potentially a very interesting role. Public safety plays a very interesting role within the Middleprise. So here's our first topic to wrestle with, is that conventional DAS and small cells won't apply in this space. Here's why. The size, the cost, what they're good at, what they're not so good at. This is a unique and new opportunity, and the current toolkit really isn't optimized to solve for it. We talked to guys like Joe Madden about, well, what does the ideal solution for the Middleprise look like? And he'll rattle off a couple of things. One is price. Right now, I would submit that conventional DAS, even though in some cases it's being deployed in Middleprise-like environments, that the price is too high. This is a little bit shocking for, I think, members of the ecosystem here. The optimal solution at a cost per square foot needs to get closer to $1. In some cases, maybe below $1. But we're talking about reducing the cost per square foot by a multiple. Flexibility. The Middleprise is going to require, in my opinion, it's rare that the Middleprise is going to consist of just a single carrier. In a hotel, people are coming in with Sprint, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. You're going to need to be able to address multiple wireless operators. And as well, the systems and solutions, we need to find easier ways to deploy them. There's such a significantly larger market, so many more buildings, and some of the players are going to play different roles within it. So it's got to become a whole lot easier to deploy the technology in this. But here's the thing. There's not a one-size-fits-all solution, in our opinion, for the Middleprise. We've talked about this in the industry for a while, about the toolkit approach, right? It's going to be DAS, it's going to be small cells, it's going to be Wi-Fi, it's going to be a combination of the macro network. Here's actually where we think the toolkit's really going to apply. Because of the uniqueness of this space, the uniqueness of the different sizes of buildings, what goes on in the buildings, the physical characteristics of the buildings, it's going to be a toolkit approach. We could probably assume, based upon geography within the US market, there's probably a likelihood that you're going to be enabling wireless, enabling service for multiple wireless operators, which begins to inform it's likely going to be a DAS. At a certain point, the business models break down for small cells as we know them. However, in a European market, potentially it looks more like small cells. Once again, it depends. But look for a toolkit approach that's based upon getting the price right, the flexibility to support multiple operators, the intelligence to make what I like to call the difficult things easier. Again, to design, to deploy, to commission, to optimize, to manage, and monitor the network, and that it becomes more of a repeatable process to do. So the next challenge, and this is a big one, is the business model, is that conventional carrier and conventional 3PO, neutral host models, don't work. They're not optimized for this market. Once again, this is a new opportunity. The models are currently optimized for large venues where you've got revenue share, you've got advertising dollars. This is just a new segment for us that ultimately we're going to find that new stakeholders are going to play a dominant role. And the really significant move here is going to be the venue owner himself. The venue owner is more than likely going to be the one writing the check that's going to own the network. We've been through, I think at PCIA, there were a couple of bombshells from some of the wireless operators that discussed and laid down what they would and would not do, what they would pay for and what they would not pay for. The Middleprise is just significantly larger and less visible than a stadium. A stadium, if you don't have service, that's a problem. It's an image problem. And so I think that the carriers are going to stay away from paying and owning and operating the networks in the Middleprise. The third-party owners as well have business models that are optimized to achieve an ROI over a certain period of time. Those are a little bit out of whack within the enterprise. It's a smaller type of opportunity. And so in our opinion, the venue owner is going to play a significant role. In order to make it work, of course, you're going to have to create new business models from an ownership perspective. So if I'm going to chunk down money for an in-building network, how do I monetize that over time? And I think one of the obvious answers would be if you're a hotel, if you're a commercial enterprise office building, you're going to pass that along to your tenants to recapture that investment over time. The rip and replace cycle, which again I think probably all of us have experienced and either lost on or benefited from, is the Middleprise is going to require some new thinking and new approaches to deploying that infrastructure. How do we find ways to make it easier to deploy? How do we make it easier to scale? Once again, if the venue owner is going to pay for this, I don't think he or she is going to want to, over 4 or 5 years from now, have to do a rip and replace. And so it speaks to the whole James Carlini outlook. Can you design an infrastructure that is meant to last the lifespan of the business? So what does that suggest? It suggests things like fiber. It's going to be more fiber-based. It's going to suggest things like, once again, making the difficult things easier so that it's self-defining, self-optimizing types of networks, things like that. So you've got the fiber, riser, but then the horizontal, the floor runs. How are you going to do that? One of the real challenges, of course, today, and one of the downsides of certain technologies is coax, right? So, is there an opportunity to use fiber all the way throughout? Do you use Ethernet? How do you make it easier? Because again, you've got more than likely you're retrofitting a building. There are going to be a ton of buildings within this Middleprise space. How do you retrofit? How do you get the stuff in? But more importantly, how do you do more? We like to talk in the industry about convergence. Is this the market opportunity? Is this going to be the catalyst that really drives convergence? Can we do more services? Can we put cellular? Can we put public safety? Can we put Wi-Fi? Can we put building automation? Can you put all that stuff on a single infrastructure? I think, like most things, over time, technology, the toolkit will evolve. We'll be able to do more stuff from an infrastructure perspective. But rip and replace, that's bad. It's going to have to be, to be addressed. And some of the ways as well, innovative thinking might be base station hoteling. We were talking just at lunch, a couple of attendees and I, about, how do you, in an urban setting, for instance, as opposed to the solution being relegated to DAS or small cells, how do you bring a broader toolkit of solutions together in order to solve for this? Can you base station hotel? Can you create a kind of a massive base station hotel, run fiber, light up a bunch of buildings, and then solve through RF amplifiers and RF radios? So I wanted to spend just a moment. I think this is the fourth one, is public safety challenges within the Middleprise. And public safety is one of those interesting conversations that is somewhat polarizing. The public safety is, they're increasingly building codes, fire code requirements that to get a certificate of occupancy, just like having a sprinkler system, you need to have indoor communications. This is for fire, for first responders. But from Solid's perspective, we would define public safety slightly a little bit broader in that, is public safety also you and me, our smartphones, being able to be notified if there's an emergency, to make calls for help during an emergency, and to call friends and loved ones if there's an emergency. And so I think public safety is going to increasingly play an important role in the Middleprise segment to get their certificate of occupancy, whether it's the right thing to do. From a marketing perspective of your building, if you've got a safer building, isn't that a place where you as a tenant, if you want to put your business in, that you're in a building that not only has capacity, coverage and capacity, but is also a safe building? Here's the thing about public safety, is that we look at that as a potential wild card opportunity. And right, anybody that goes to Vegas or plays cards knows about the wild card. And a wild card is something that you play based upon the way you need it. And the Middleprise, once again, the carriers are probably going to stay away from that. Can public safety become if you take and address public safety, does that become a catalyst for pulling in the wireless operators to sign on to a network? Is it something that you lead with? Is it something you follow with? It's increasingly going to be a challenge and a necessity that needs to be solved for in order to get it done in the Middleprise. So I think we're just about out of time. Solid has a booth on the exhibit floor. We shot some videos. Joey Jackson in the back from RCR Wireless shot some really great videos when we were at DAS Congress earlier this year, and talked to some of the stakeholders that are captured in that video to talk a little bit about the technology toolkit, the business and funding models, the design and infrastructure, and then the public safety elements. I invite you to come to our website, check that stuff out. We've got some other information, ebooks on the website. Be glad to talk to you after the session as well. But most importantly, really glad and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about this. This is going to be a very interesting and compelling market segment that we're all going to be working on and competing with and against one another for the years to come.